Viewers and listeners, we welcome you to this week's episode of the Bubb Report. For our first segment in this week's installment of the program, we're happy to introduce Maguire Money Moves, the segment where we discuss financial literacy and introduce effective money management and investment tips. I am happy to introduce Shonelle Mc Guire, who is an actuary and money management expert. And notwithstanding the fact that we are in the carnival season, there is never no wrong time in which to have a conversation around money management and investment. So I'm happy to be joined by Shonelle today. Shonelle, we've had you on the program before, but when you were here, we were discussing NIS and we were discussing more macroeconomic issues. But we want to take a different tack and look at more individual micro level money management and investment concerns that affects the everyday pockets of citizens in the national community. So Shonelle, welcome to the report.
Welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to do this segment.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here as well.
Awesome. I look forward to it. And I hope the audience will also be very engaged and give us loads of feedback as we go through these segments.
Absolutely. Now, tell us about yourself, Shonelle. For those who may not know you, of course, many people know you as an actuary, but there is more to you than just being an actuary.
Sure. So I'm currently now working for a small insurance firm in the U.S. I do asset liability management. I know that's a big term, but that's basically, I look at the investments in the insurance company and I compare it to what the liabilities are or the obligations that they have to pay. Like, for instance, you have life insurance, or if you have annuities, those are the risks that the insurance company takes on. So I help manage that risk by helping them discern what type of portfolios they should hold in order to be able to manage their risk better. So it's called asset liability management. You work with both the investment side of the company as well as the risk management side.
So risk management, So you advise clients on what risks to take in respect of where to invest their monies. What are some of the best investments they need to make? That's what I hear you saying here.
Yes, that's correct. And this specific role I'm doing now is in the insurance company. But I also, on my own, try to do asset management. My capacity has become a little bit limited after taking on this current role. But I have helped people understand what their plans and goals are and set up portfolios or investments so that they could attain those goals. And I hope to share that knowledge with the public in this segment, like how best they could generate income and more, not just with asset liability management, but more on an individual level of different opportunities that exist out there, how they could get involved, whether it's banking, whether it's CPI, whether it's real estate. So a very broad spectrum I hope to discuss within these segments as we move forward.
Absolutely. Now, why is there a need for money management? Of course, in my grandparents' days, they would always talk about saving for a rainy day. There is always the myth or the urban legend, that you put your monies in a piggy bank, a cash pan, or you stack it under a mattress. But when we talk about money management, there are also significant challenges in respect of saving and investing. Some may say, well, you know what? I do not even have the disposable income to be able to invest. So can you articulate why we ought to see money management as an important element of our financial portfolios?
Well, I mean, most of us aspire to have families and generate wealth. And when they grow older, yes, we have NIS, but as you can see, sometimes the earnings from NIS can be limited depending on, if you've actually worked there, and there have been a lot of changes coming. So you kind of have to be mindful of those changes. So how much it could help you in retirement. But there's a multifold of reasons why people need to understand money. It depends a lot on your personal circumstance, yes, But I was surprised to learn from working in Grenada, a lot of Grenadians they do take that first element that you described and have a huge savings.
Mm-hmm.
They have huge savings for a long time. And sometimes they're not getting any real interest back on those savings. So you have to really think about your personal situation when you want the money. Some people want to put a down payment on a house, so they're saving. There's different ways you can save and actually maybe attain a balance that you want faster, right? Or even have more extra income in the future. So this is really an avenue of helping you understand the tools that are available to you individually based on what you would like to do. And Grenadians surprisingly save a lot and very conservative with their money, which is great. Like as you described, those tools that our grandparents told us, they were really great tools, but now there's so much more tools that are available for you. So it's really good for you to understand them and not only just jump into anything, but understand it very well enough that you're taking calculated risks, right? So this program is really geared to really open the spectrum. I hope to learn as well from this program, from hopefully different experts on the show, etc. But it really is just to open our mindsets of what can we do with our money and how can we create more money? I mean, I feel like everybody wants more money, right? At the end of the day. So it's like how we could team up together and really, help our economy grow. And because when our economy grow, we grow. So, just different tools to really facilitate that in Grenada. I'm a Grenadian and I only want the best for all Grenadians out there. So this is really the reason why I'm doing the show, is really to just expand our knowledge and hopefully make every Grenadian have a basic understanding of what's out there.
Let us expand a bit on some of the money management, investment topics that you would be introducing to our audience for this particular segment.
Sure. So some of the topics, as I mentioned, for instance, banking, right? It'll be good to understand the different products that are out there for you to take advantage of, both locally and regionally. I mean, people think that they could only have to invest in Grenada. Sometimes, like for instance, the stock market is a place I'm invested in, and in a place I normally encourage other people to invest in. So it's really understanding that dynamic. And I plan to touch on different things, like why is it that we only have one local bank in Grenada, right? And go into different topics as to what, why are our fees so high? Like, where is it going? Like, what's going on behind the scenes a little bit, so that Grenadians become more knowledgeable of why there's all these mergers and acquisitions happening in the region when it comes to the banking industry, right? Sometimes these type of knowledge leads to different opportunities for locals. So just finding different ways to kind of, really get that entrepreneurial spirit going, because you've gained the knowledge. Like another area I would like to focus on is CBI. People look at CBI as only to develop hotels. There's so much more we could do with the CBI program. It's a great way for Grenadians to generate capital to fund any type of business that's out there. So those are some of the topics which I hope to touch on. And real estate has always been something I'm pretty invested in, and I always encourage people to invest in. And just talk about the pitfalls that could happen in real estate, different ways to get about it. Real estate is something I think people could partner and do very easily, to be honest. And, people think that you have to be a wealthy person to maybe, do real estate. And I don't agree with that. I think if we were to work more with each other, there's different ways you can engage in different real estate initiatives. Like how the people do it in the US is they normally use regular people's money and create a development, right? And we could do it on a smaller scale. There's, I'm really trying to show Grenadians what is out there and really just try to help us mimic and find solutions that, would work for us in our small island mindset. Like so these are the type of topics I hope to address and touch on and really bring in key experts in these areas when we dive on it, etc. Like for instance, even agriculture is something I hold dear to heart, because people think agriculture is going into farms and all that. No, I feel like we should really be feeding ourselves. There's no reason why the Caribbean region isn't able to feed themselves. So going into these type of topics and finding opportunities that could help benefit the regular, you yourself, and different. If you have a specific interest, may spark a new interest in you as well, right? To really develop and hone into the opportunities that exist for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when we talk financial literacy, who needs to be in the know around financial issues? Now, I remember growing up again, and I use the baseline of my parental experiences. You hear your parents always telling you, you need to manage your money, you need to invest wisely, not invest wisely, but save wisely. Don't spend money on this pair of shoes or this pair of pants or whatever the case might be. But let us talk about who needs to benefit, or who would benefit from that kind of financial literacy that you're going to be talking about.
I think every Grenadian, even if you're in high school and above, when you have the capacity to understand money, will benefit from this program. People who are very wealthy off or probably want to pass on to kids and different avenues, you could benefit from the different opportunities that exist as well. People who are mid-career and, maybe trying to buy a house, or, trying to have a college fund for their kid, you could benefit as well. And even if you're in high school, like if you're, trying to figure, you want to go to entrepreneurial route, you want to understand, what's going on regionally and internationally in terms of where you could take your career, etc. You could also benefit from this show. So I honestly think any person who really wants to understand how to manage their money well as have an understanding of opportunities that exist today and tools available to you will benefit from that show. And I honestly think that's every Grenadian probably above the age of 50.
In the same way that you're never too old to learn, you're never too old to invest in some good financial literacy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you're older, you have families, you want to, figure out how to divide up the wealth, or, encourage your kids to do something to help you go in. Like there's so many avenues where people just need to understand their money better.
Now, earlier you mentioned CBI and CBI investments and looking at it beyond the lens of just real estate and so on. Let us talk about who are some of the experts that you would rely on around guiding us in respect of financial and money management literacy.
Well, I do hope to tap into a few friends who I know are part of the CBI and do CBI programs. I do plan to, probably reach out to people who are running the CBI initiative here in Grenada, and also maybe in other countries. CBI is a very wide thing, and like, for instance, you have the agents angle of it, then you have the lawyers that get involved in it, then you have the developers. So there's a lot of people you could tap in, but I hope to bring on, it's also about people's time as well, but I hope to bring on people who are very knowledgeable in those specific specialties, whichever we will dive in on that day. For instance, I know one of the things I would like to discuss is like how you start the project and to how you finish it, right? So like, what is the application process? Can everybody do it? Like, you just get into the nitty gritty and, to open Grenadians' minds to what's possible for them. Because I feel like a lot of people think it's foreigners that come in and develop, put down a big like 6 cents, etc. No, you could put down your own probably development using CBI. And it doesn't have to be a hotel, it could be a new business that, capital funding, etc. So I hope to bring in people who are very knowledgeable within the CBI program, who knows how to apply, to, how to execute, etc. And luckily I had an opportunity to work a little bit with the CBI program. So I hope to tap into that as well when I do those segments. But it's really every expert in this space. In banking, I would love for like maybe the governor of the CCB to come on, etc. Just really reach out to different, experts in the field so they could really help us, have credibility in what we're saying and really, be able to share the opportunities that exist.
Mm-hmm. Now, let us talk about how our valued audience, our viewers and listeners, can benefit from this, and how can they participate.
Okay, sure. So first off, I really would like your feedback. So I would give you my contact information, and I really hope that you guys send in the ideas of the show. So the premise of the show is ways to generate income, opportunities that exist when it comes to investments, and really looking at the risk of all those opportunities. So topics, let me know what you really want to hear. Do you care more about banking, CBI, real estate? Like, what is your personal interest, or what do you want to learn more about? Send us that feedback, and we'll have a survey going so you could keep us informed at how well we're touching on the topics of interest, where more we could dive in deeper. I really welcome any feedback.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, what is your investment philosophy? Everyone has a view, especially in your field, around what their investment philosophy is. Some are more bearish than others. Some are bullish. Where do you go down on the spectrum?
I would say I take calculated risks. For instance, as I mentioned, I like real estate. I'm definitely in real estate. And real estate, I would not take on a bunch of debt in order to be in real estate. Okay. I have to be able to manage that debt with my, personal income coming in. So my philosophy is really calculated risk. I am in the stock market. Stock market goes up and down, goes all sideways, this way, that way. But I'm a very disciplined investor. So I know I don't just pull out my money every time I see a stock go down. I take very calculated risk, and I understand, okay, this stock could go to zero, but I diversify my portfolio so that I know that even if one goes to zero, the other might, go up 1,000%. So it's very well balanced. So that's my personal philosophy. I take very calculated risk, but I do take risk, and I invest heavily.
Investing, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something I do. Anytime there is a stock that's really low, that usually trades very well, I would want to buy that. Confession is good for the soul, right?
But you should buy it when it's low. But some people like to sell it. They do the opposite, actually. The behavior dynamics normally people do, because they own it and they fearful of losing the money. They want
of losing their money, they just sell it. No. That's no. I would never do that. I love holding on to stock.
I hold on too sometimes, longer than I should too. It's about
yeah. So finally, Shanta, for our next episode of Maguire Money Moves, obviously we'll be going into the weeds next month, in August, with the date to be announced. What would be the first segment about?
For sure. So the first segment, since we celebrated 50 years of CARICOM, I'm hoping to make the first segment around CARICOM and CARICOM's initiatives. So from research, CARICOM has benefited our region greatly. We have CXC, we have all these standardized exams, we have free trade, free movement, free establishment of service providers. I really wanted to dig into what that means for the average Grenadian. Like, for instance, we say we have free establishment of, service providers. Does that mean you could just go and pick up and, start a business anywhere? What are normally the hurdles? How could you overcome the hurdles on doing stuff like that? CARICOM has had some great initiatives pushed out of the 50th, I think, meetings of the heads of government, and where that I believe they're moving towards total free movement in Q1 of 2024 for all of the member states, which is a great thing, because before, I believe only nurses and a few other selected skill sets could have moved and lived somewhere else for free. So really diving into what opportunities exists from these initiatives. Also, there's I heard about agriculture initiative that's going on with the president of Guyana. So it's really looking at what kind of implications that would have for us, and how can you take advantage of these initiatives and opportunities that exist through CARICOM, and also dive into, areas that, we find CARICOM ain't touching as much as they should. Like, for instance, to me, the cost of travel around the region, why is it so high? Tourism, why don't we have like one product? Like, why are we communicating better in those areas? So it's really a segment around CARICOM and how CARICOM could benefit the individual and how they could take advantage of different initiatives and opportunities that exist within CARICOM. Mm-hmm. And I would love for feedbacks, still working through the segment and how exactly we'll lay it out. So please share your thoughts on exactly what you would like to see from the next show around CARICOM. What areas should we focus more on the initiatives? Should we focus on more what they've done? Should we focus on, how we get over different hurdles that exist in CARICOM? And if you have any suggestions also, please share.
Mm-hmm. Shonelle, is there anything else that I might have missed that you feel we need to address before we go to the next elements of the report this week?
No, I think we've addressed everything. I just want people to leave with the idea that this show is about, really helping the audience learn of opportunities that exist to help them as it relates to investments, as it relates to helping them generate more income, generate more wealth. So this is the real premise of the show, and we will, jump into different avenues, ways, industries, and all of that to accomplish that. But it's really about the individual gaining more insights to help them with their money and their money management.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Shonelle, thank you so much. And Maguire Money Moves, viewers and listeners, will be a regular feature here on the Bubb Report starting this month. Of course, this was a very first installment of Money Moves, but moving forward, it is a segment that will be a regular feature here on the Bubb Report. So we thank Shonelle for agreeing to partner with us for this great financial literacy initiatives. Viewers and listeners, what we will do now is that we will take a quick break and come back with the panel segment of the week. Please stand by.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
Viewers and listeners, we welcome you back to this week's episode of the Bubb Report. Now, on August 1st this year, Anglophone Caribbean nations will commemorate Emancipation Day, marking the 1834 abolition of slavery in the British Empire and the 1838 abolition of the apprenticeship period, a system which forced formerly enslaved people of African descent to continue to work uncompensated for their former enslavers. Emancipation was not a gift. The Slavery Abolition Act, which banned slavery in the British colonies, followed a shift in the British Empire's economic interests and sustained resistance by enslaved people through massive slave revolts like Bussers' Rebellion in Barbados and guerrilla warfare, as in the case of the Maroons of Jamaica. While resistance helped pave the way for emancipation in the 1800s, the Caribbean was not free from British colonial rule for another century. For centuries, Caribbean people fought for liberation from slavery and colonization. Today, amid new calls for the United Kingdom to tackle systemic racism and reckon with the crimes of the British Empire, including reparations, Caribbean people are still fighting for justice and repair. This year's Emancipation Day commemoration in Grenada is happening against the backdrop of the historic Trevelyan family apology in St. George's for their family's role in benefiting from the enslavement of people of African descent on the island. Several other families may also be going this route, and the new King of England, King Charles, has given a commitment to studying the royal family's role in the transatlantic slave trade. Here to discuss how Grenada plans to commemorate Emancipation Day in 2023 are Livingston Nelson, the new CEO of the Grenada Cultural Foundation, and Ali Salambi Gill, the chairman of the Grenada National Reparations Committee, as well as Ian Charles, the creative director of Jambalasi Grenada. Gentlemen, welcome to the Bubb Report this week, and happy early emancipation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob, and happy Emancipation Day to you and to Livingston and Ian.
Yes, absolutely.
On all of our listeners and viewers.
That's right. Now, this year's Emancipation celebration, as I said in the lead-in, is happening at a very significant time. We have a significant work happening on the reparations front. Livingston, I want to bring you in first. I want you as chair, as CEO of the Cultural Foundation. By the way, congratulations on the new role. I want you to react to what you're seeing happening and the role that Grenada is playing in respect of reparative justice in this period.
First, I think I would like to commend my colleague here, Ali Gill, for the one that actually pushing that trend in Grenada, that movement in Grenada at this time. But I also believe that way back before Ali Gill, even before Ali Gill was conceptualized by his parents, that there was always movements for restorative justice, one way or the other. When you mentioned earlier on, Dr. Bob, about the resistance that was taking place before, remember there was this physical and overt resistance in terms of the armed struggle by the Maroons of Jamaica, but also there was Maroons activities taking place here in Grenada. But I also want to draw your attention to what was called the subtle resistance that made it a lot more difficult for the English, for the excess profitability of the slave trade. So yes, they were in business and it was extremely profitable, but gradually, with the subtle resistance and the non-compliance by a lot of our people, we recognize that it became a lot more difficult for slavery to be profitable. And so that move was one partly influenced by the economic condition, but I also believe too by the humanitarian efforts of our people and other English folks that saw the need for us for the resistance against the human bondage that took place. So I wanted to get that clear out of the way. As it relates to the restorative justice, our frontier, and I believe that wholeheartedly, must be we as a people organizing, mobilizing, and deciding that we would not continue in the way that things used to be. And so that movement to address the wrong is I would say, an improvement or maybe a greater awareness in our consciousness that we were wronged and it was something that have to be paid for. So the idea of reparation for the former slaves or I'm using the wrong word, the exceeding generation of us that now on the scene, that there must be some justice that must be taking place, and it should be done both on the social, on the political, and on the economic front for all the wrong that took place. Because we are basically a living legacy of some of the institutions that still have this debilitating effect on us as former slave colony and former slave owners, and ancestors. So that I believe is important in going forward to address some of the historical wrong that was created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Brother Gil, this year's Emancipation commemoration in Grenada and, of course, in the English-speaking Caribbean, it's happening at a critical inflection point. And would you say that you feel justified in the struggle of the Grenada Reparations Committee in respect of speaking truth to power around those reparations justice struggles that you have been advocating for a long time? You are not a Johnny come lately when it comes to this. This is an issue that you have been advocating for a long time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob. I think that this year's Emancipation celebrations is extremely important part of the continuous struggle for reparative justice. I say that because, as we have noticed over the past year or so, we have made significant strides with regards to reparative justice. We have seen recently the King of Holland apologizing, the Prime Minister of Holland apologizing on December 18th last year. We've seen the Laura Trevelyan initiative in Grenada, which was really and truly a watershed moment for the reparative struggle here in the Anglophone Caribbean, which has then led to the establishment of the Haze of Enslavers organization in the UK, which Laura and other persons who benefited from the slave trade and slavery, they have formed themselves into a committee to lobby and to put pressure on the powers that be in the United Kingdom to push reparations. So we have done a lot. A lot has happened with regards to the advancement of the struggle for reparative justice. But as part of that struggle for reparative justice is not simply a matter of going to the former colonial powers and enslavers and say, hey, we need reparative justice. There's also a responsibility on us as well to educate our people. And that is why the GNRC, we are elated that the teaching of history will resume fully in primary and secondary schools across the island. Because as we say, if people do not know where they come from, then how will they know where they are going? So that's a good initiative. Now, the Emancipation celebrations in Grenada has been bubbling for a little while. We initiated that many years ago with the Institute of People's Enlightenment. Then the Grenada Cultural Foundation over the years has kept the torch alight. But we still have a lot to do with regards to the growth of the Emancipation celebrations here in Grenada. Granted, it comes also on the heels of our carnival, so that really and truly any other celebrations will be dwarfed in the context of like carnival celebrations, the magnitude of which we have here in Grenada. But at the same time, we believe more awareness needs to be had among our people, and more can be done with regards to our Emancipation celebrations. It's not funny that, as I say all the time, we celebrate in a big way, Valentine's Day and this day and that day and so on. But apart from our independence, emancipation for our peoples is the most significant date in the advancement of our nations and our peoples. And as such, it is not something lightly that we should be swept under the carpet. And as such, it is extremely important that as descendants of African people, of Africans in these parts, that we commemorate and understand fully the slave trade, slavery, the horrors thereof, the fact that we have built the cities and the economies of Western European societies, the fact that our ancestors bled, but they were terrorized, they were tortured, they were exploited, and the legacy of slavery is still with us. Now, we have done well for ourselves as a people. We have done well since Grenada since 1974. All over the English-speaking Caribbean, we have done well for ourselves in terms of building our society. But we have always been at a disadvantage because of our colonial past. And we believe that reparative justice is one step forward in advancing the development of our societies. And emancipation celebrations, we believe, is an extremely important platform for the awareness of our people here in Grenada. And as such, the Grenada National Reparations Committee is elated to partner with the Cultural Foundation to see how we can enhance the emancipation celebrations on the island.
And let me bring back Livingston here now. Livingston, both of you gentlemen, I believe, are some of the people in Grenada who are perfectly placed to be organizing a commemoration as important as Emancipation Day. Which, again, whenever I think of Emancipation Day, it's the only high holy day that I really think about in the context of Grenada. But talk to us, Livingston. Over the years, the Grenada Cultural Foundation, they have held activities to commemorate Emancipation Day. But you are from Big Parish, and I know that in Big Parish there is always that Emancipation Walk that ends in Grenville with the Massentos and the torches and the drums and everything, even with your own Tivoli drummers there. And I love attending that event whenever I'm in Grenada. So talk to us now that you are part of the Cultural Foundation, what those Emancipation Day celebrations would look like this year.
Well, I am, as I mentioned, in Grenville, St. Andrews, Sedu, and for a number of years, they were the torch bearers. They were the ones that were keeping the emancipation flag alight. I say that because let me just see, and there is apparently, let me just see. Now, in Grenada, officially, the Monday and Tuesday were given as holidays. So Emancipation was celebrated on the first Monday in August. I think as we came together, and I think that was some decision probably made before, that throughout the English Caribbean, the 1st of August is the official Emancipation Day. But Rainbow City and someone act of the government had given the first Monday in August as Emancipation Day. So Sedu kept that flame alive, and it was a day that they designated as the African Way Day, a day to come up with a flambeau, and then we drum and we put on performance pieces to commemorate our Afrocentricity. So kudos to Sedu for holding the flag for many, many years. Little in the last maybe 6 years or thereabouts, the Cultural Foundation started on recognizing August the 1st. So remember, while the other territories might have August the 1st as a holiday, in Grenada it's still not. It's not a holiday. But the Cultural Foundation started recognizing August the 1st. And we are going to continue in that trend on recognizing August the 1st as the rest of the English Caribbean, as a day where we commemorate our emancipation. And is that we are also continuing the celebration on August the 7th with Sedu. So the same flambeau march, etc., would continue in Sedu as we recognize that. But Kellan, there is something that I believe is very important that we must look at as it relates to our celebration, and this year is no exception. In my discussion with Ali, we recognize that we want to bring all like-minded people together. So to recognize that we all must come together, be the Enlightenment Program, the museum, all works, to come together, let us see if we could heighten that awareness. Because truth be told, the only way we can actually pay true homage to emancipation is through our psychological and mental empowerment. No economic, nothing else basically is as important as lifting the awareness of our people that we have to find our own grounding, our footing. We have to recognize what truly defined us as a people. So even if $1 billion is thrown to, let us use that loosely, to someone that is not liberated mentally, it doesn't make much of a difference. But a liberated people, mentally and psychologically, would know where to go and what to do and what to hold on to the principle of what keeps us together as a people. So we want to live that. So it has to be accompanied by a level of awareness and educational program. So we in the Cultural Foundation actually started a daily chit chat, both on GBN and on WeFM. And we want to expand that throughout to have what I call cultural tidbits, enlightening our people, trying to lift the awareness of those tenets, those things that really make us truly people that embrace who we are as an African people. Mm-hmm. So that is our role that we want to play. We recognize at least if it's for one day in the year, we hope we would be done more than once, to recognize that we must have our African way, recognizing again that we are an African people. And for the first time in our collaboration with the GNRC, we want to now bring in our African spirituality, those areas that were marginalized. So for want of a better word, the Baptist people, we want to bring in the Rastafarians to say, let us hold on to those things that closely represent us as a people. So they would be the one now that is charged with the responsibility for the spirituality, the libation, the cultural libation, and the execution of what we want to do. So there is a depart, but there is a deliberate commitment on the part of the Cultural Foundation and Ali and the GNRC in recognizing a new trust towards lifting that awareness of our emancipation.
So, Comrade Gill, I want to bring you back here and talk about how we think about and how we reimagine, or how we should reimagine the commemoration of emancipation. Livingston mentions libation here, and you know, when I think about libation, and I'm saying to myself, how have we not included that aspect into such an important commemoration? But tell us, Ali, how are the Grenada Reparations Committee will be partnering with the Grenada Cultural Foundation for this year's commemoration of emancipation? If you can just unmute the mic there. Yes, go ahead.
The consciousness of our people is extremely important. One of the legacies of slavery is that in many respects, we do not value ourselves as we ought to. As Africans, see ourselves as Africans, see ourselves as Black people. That's why you have people bleaching their skin to become fairer, become paler, become closer to white, and so on, right? Franz Fanon and so spoke to it, you know. So that is why we speak about, you know, sometimes you see people wear T-shirts, Black and I'm proud. I'm not even sure sometimes you know the significance of that, and so, you know, you get a T-shirt and you wear it. And I ask people, Grenadians and so on, people Africans, and how many of us have a piece of African clothing in our wardrobe? You know, our wardrobes are all filled with European design wear, you know, and when someone wear something of an African clothing, we say, what they playing? You know, who do they think they are, and so on. So,
or they make fun of you. I mean, I remember I remember there was a time when I was much younger. You were my history teacher, and I remember people would laugh at you when you wore your dashiki, and they say, you know, what kind of thing is that?
And you could admit, if you was a student, you should laugh at your teacher with dashiki. You know, that's okay. But no, you wear dashiki every day.
That's right.
You know, and with the beads and so on. No, it's very important. So last year we initiated the African, and Livingston touched a very significant point. You know, in Grenada, traditionally, we had the Monday and Tuesday, first Monday and Tuesday in Grenada as a holiday.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a public holiday. And in many respects, persons don't really appreciate that the reason for the holiday is emancipation. so that sometimes the Monday and the Tuesday falls, on different dates in August. So the GNRC is saying the 1st of August this year is African Day. Now, Emancipation Day is a historical fact, so it's not something that you can shift or move, willy-nilly, really. You by doing that, just as we have, lost in many respects the significance of that Monday holiday, because it is not tied to emancipation. If it's tied to the 1st of August, I'm of the respectful view that persons would appreciate that this is the reason this is Emancipation Day. But we have just drifted with the first Monday of August for years. And in doing so, I think we have lost some of the significance of the Emancipation Day celebrations in Grenada, whereby other Anglophone Caribbean countries, they have kept the 1st of August. So on the 1st of August, we are declaring it African Day. And we're asking all our fellow brothers and sisters or fellow citizens to wear something African on that day, whether it's your headpiece or full African outfit and so on and so forth. That's extremely important. When we speak about our identity as a people, our dress is important, our language is important, our names are important. We look at the East Indians and they still have their names and surnames intact. From the East Indians, they do have their names, the Ragba Singh, the Gandhis, the Singh, the whatever. All of us African descendants here in this part, we have European names, in some cases Christian names, they say, based on which church and persons do not. This is a system, and when you say, some churches you must have a Christian name to
be baptized, for example.
So that is a systematic role that the church played in removing the black man's identity, in removing the identity of the enslaved, and we have continued with those traditions. You see, and that is not no attack on religion, because those of us who understand history understands that these religions play a critical role in the enslavement of African peoples. In fact, their own plantations and own slaves themselves. You see, so that whitewashing of the name, so that the African Day is significant. I mean, we tried it last year. Some persons did come out, and we're looking for more persons to wear the African Day on Emancipation Day, the 1st of August. Similar to how we have Colors Day at Independence Time, we hope that the African Day will become just a big thing and a popular thing, people design and so. And we also looking to give prizes for the best African design outfit for, the ladies, they when they're into something, they can already turn it up with all the different designs and styles and so on. So we're looking out for that, as well as the men folk, to wear their different dashiki and so on. So we'll be looking to award prizes to persons who we believe have had some of the most creative African outfit on August 1st. Now, on August 31st, we are endeavoring to have, for the very first time, a watch night on the Carnage. The purpose of the watch night, we're talking about poetry, drumming, Rastafarian chants, flambeau, decorated area, and so on. The idea of it, again, is to bring in Emancipation Day. Some other islands like Antigua and so on, they have been doing it for many years, and it has been successful. Here we're just starting, but it's a occasion and opportunity to highlight African cultural traditions, and at the same time to usher in, Emancipation Day in Grenada. So watch night on the 31st, and African.
That's the 31st of July, yes.
31st of July, yes. The night
31st of July.
31st of July on the Carnage, and then on the 1st of August we do the African dress day. Brother Livingston can speak more in depth with regards to the event that we will be having with the libation, and it's extremely important with regards to the libation that we bring the libation, because the libation is the African tradition of respecting and honoring our ancestors and the souls of the departed. You see, the Western European culture is different from the African culture, and we believe that as we continue to relearn our history and to appreciate some of the most significant aspects of our history, that bit by bit we should correct what we may have done errantly in the past. Maybe and not deliberately so. Sometimes we have said or done things and so on for want of knowledge. I can say to you that over the last 5 to 10 years, what I would have taught at O-level history, I would have done it differently now. Now that we know better, the British government has opened up the archives and so on. So now we have a better and fuller understanding. I never knew that the apprenticeship period from 1834 to 1838 was part of the compensation awarded to slave owners by the Emancipation Act. So that there was reparations, there was compensation for the slave owners by the Emancipation Act. In fact, if you read the entire Emancipation Act, right, it is not just the Emancipation Act. It goes on to say for the compensation for the loss of properties by those slave owners and so on, if you read the full act. And we know that the British government awarded compensation financially to the slave owners in 1834. They took a loan from the Rothschild Bank of some $21 million, 40% of the government expenditure in 1834 thereabouts. But the real the compensation package that was worked out for the enslavers were about 43 million pounds. So what the British government did was to give compensation in cash, yes, to the planters, and then they devised this scheme of apprenticeship whereby they would have enslaved people providing free labor, right, for this period of time to further compensate the planters. I would have thought you, Kellen, that this was a period whereby it was to transition the slaves into freedom. That's what they said to us.
Yeah, that is what I understood it as until a few years ago. Yeah.
Who have to transition to freedom? All men were born free.
Yeah,
there is no need for transition into freedom. People know how to be free. It was one thing.
And the way that they framed it, it was just like this. It was like, the way that it was framed too, it was just, we are transitioning to civilization.
Just similarly,
but I think the transition.
Livingston, you want to add something?
I think the transition was twofold. That the slave owners were definitely going to get a chance to learn how not to have the chattel slaves anymore. So I think that is one. So I think the period, the 4 years, was to establish the new relationship. So they were forced, the slave was still forced to work, maybe with shortened hours. But it's how then they establish that new relationship between slave and slave owners. So I think that the main idea of the 4 years was basically for that. But Ali had made a point earlier on as it relates to the challenge, and I don't think we delve in that. Meaning the challenge that we face because of the period we are in, and we are in August the 1st. Now, we are going to a period where right on our doorstep, we already are going to be having most of the semis out of the way in terms of our calypso, etc. And right in between that and the finals, we are celebrating an event, and where the population is not fully aware of or appreciative of as of now. So, and that is one of the things that been plaguing us, particularly me within the Cultural Foundation, how we link the aspiration, say, of the Jab or the Shawnee, the resistance of these people. Yeah, because it might look like that on the outset, but some of our traditional masks, our Grenadian mask, has two main aspects. And one is fancy mask and one was the protest. And those aspects of our carnival that was based on protest is that fight for identity. And so that fight for identity has a direct correlation with that aspect of trying to be liberated. Yeah. So we making that link might be a lot easier to show that correlation between we trying to maintain aspect of our culture being displayed publicly that protested against the system, and link that with emancipation. Because as I said, the trust of emancipation must be with our minds, must be with our ability to not be dependent on, but again, our ability to be focusing on us, on what we can do, what we must do as a people. So this year is particularly interesting. One, we have made that shift, as I said, in collaboration with the GNRC in terms of the Christian or the religious aspect of it. But we are facing a new era also, where in Grenada in particular, we are looking at a 50-year. So what does a nation, a 50-year nation, what does that represent for us? So it's a real challenge, but the focus is one and the same, that we have to find groundings or a way to get our footing. We have to find a way to say that we arrive, that we now have our voices, that we are going to use our creativity for our own gratification, that we're going to use our physical strength to build our nation in a way based on how we conceptualize. I don't believe it was done before, but I think we reach that new era. What is the thinking? How can we all come together, or like-minded people come together to lift the bar in terms of our level of consciousness? So if nothing else, that is the challenge for us in terms of the emancipation message going forward. And then, Kailan, when we really know who we are and what we want, then the question of reparation would be a greater cry, a louder cry, for those that need to honor the social and moral and human obligation. They would know that there is a next force to reckon with, because it would be like a demand. It would be something that we are united for, as a people, So hoping that
absolutely.
Grenada play the end, Barbados play the end, Trinidad, Africa play the end. All of us united in that effort to assert our Afrocentricity. And I think by doing that, the powers that be would recognize that they have to meet us partly.
Yeah. So let us talk about dates on August 1st in respect of the Cultural Foundation and the GNRC. How would the day start? How would it play out? What is happening on that day for somebody who is interested in participating in some of those events? Which parts of the country can they go to partake and commemorate emancipation? Ali, I would start with you and then I'll go to Livingston.
Well, yeah, I would give way to Livingston on that, because he would he's in the engine room at the GCF in directing that. So I will give it to him and I will chip in.
Yeah.
Livingston?
We attempted, let me just say, we attempted several things. One, we wanted a poetry competition. In terms of the submission, we did not get a lot of that. We had attempt to have an exhibition at the museum that fall flat along the way. The watch night is going to come on, and just one maybe sentence to describe the watch night. Just just imagine that you are going to be free on the 1st. What happened the night before? Do you sleep comfortable, or you sleep with a lot of anxiety? Do you sleep thinking well about, So the thing is, the whole idea of the watch night is to say, or imagine that next day when your whole life are going to be transformed, where you are going to be free. What is it? What is the thinking? So we want to capture that thinking before on the 1st. But on the 1st, starting at 10 a.m., we are going to go to the barracks, the old barracks. And we believe it has a lot of historical connotation in the barracks area. They're actually in the marketing.
And that's the barracks on Melville Street,
Old
yeah?
Street, yes, on Melville Street. So we are going to be gathering there. We're going to be having a drum call. So we have Kevin Bolin and his team. They are going to be drumming, and as people gather, and then we are going to have what we call a cultural libation. So we're going to have the libation, basically saying we want to cleanse the bad spirit and we want to embrace our Afrocentricity. So that libation would then take place right there. We then would march a parade from there onto Granby Street, where we set up house there. We have a tent and we would have officials, etc. And we are going to have, again, some chants and some singing and some poems and some poetry taking place, all in commemoration of our celebration of our people, our African people. So that will take place. I would address the crowd for a very, briefly. Ali would address the crowd. The Minister of Culture is expected also to address the crowd. And we would have the reading of the proclamation. We would have the proclamation also on Granby Street, basically saying, the proclamation is the proclamation,
The Emancipation Proclamation.
the Emancipation Proclamation, yes. And then we would basically close the ceremony off. But we are hoping that people would come out to take part in the libation and the procession, and again, and to listen to the pronouncement that would take place on that occasion. So basically, in a nutshell, on that day, that is what would happen. And as I said, I know Ali is very particular about the first, and I too, but also we had that collaboration years ago with CEDU, and they would do something similar with a march on the 7th onto the tongue of Grenville. They would have some performances, they would have drums, they would have the flambeau, etc. taking place on the 7th.
So, Kenan, what we are truly trying to do is to build a truly national emancipation celebration, so that maybe in the years to come, you may not hear about the National Reparations Committee being a partner with the GCF or with CEDU and so on, but that it will be a truly national celebration, maybe just simply driven by the Cultural Foundation. That is where we really want to
just let me stick a pin as Ali said that. I think in the future, I would want to see more, Ali, not less. I would like to see the GNRC. I would like to see the Enlightenment. I would like to see schools. I would like to see other people partnering, not less.
That's the point. So I mean, the Cultural Foundation just simply coordinates all the different forces,
right, yes.
So that it's truly national. That's the point I'm making. Where more groups are more than invited to come and so on, and then the Cultural Foundation becomes enough center for coordinating all these different activities with all the different groups. So that ultimately is what we want: more participation, more groups, and so on. But we can have one of center really driving the national emancipation celebrations. So that Kellan, in essence, I think what we are speaking about is that this is probably the largest effort to date. You're talking about that in terms of a whole national effort to celebrate emancipation. It's not just CEDU doing something in Grenville or the thing. We want to incorporate everything, so that there is a heightened awareness of the issue of emancipation. And what goes with that is the issue of Black consciousness. What goes with that? The issue of reparative justice, the issue of national identity. And I always believe that the true foundation of national development is national identity, knowing who we are as a people, and so that when we speak about reducing the import bill for food items and so on, if we as a people appreciate who we are and so on, we will know, and nobody has to tell us that our mango and watermelon and guava and tambran and is better than American apples and grapes. You know what I mean? so that we begin on our breakfast table, we have local fruits and so on, right? So that nobody have to tell us what we grow. We know that, and we know that eating what we grow is far healthier. And we start taking care of ourselves, because one of the legacies of slavery and so on is a chronic disease, the diet that has been left and so on and so forth. So that, with national identity, national consciousness and so on, to my mind, have the greatest economic spin-offs.
I agree.
The greatest economic spin-offs. Nobody have to tell us to eat what we grow. Nobody have to tell us to be conscious of our environment. We know that we have to be conscious of the environment because we can't litter where we live in. We keep Grenada beautiful because we are proud of Grenada and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
When people come, and so we ain't cleaning for nobody. We ain't cleaning for no tourists. We're cleaning for ourselves first and foremost. And when they come, they can enjoy. So to me, national identity, national consciousness remains the foundation of national development, really, in a real essence.
That sense of Grenadianism that you always talk about.
Grenadianism.
Yeah.
So I just today, early in the week, I was speaking with regards to, I always call our Grenada slang, our Grenada way of speaking, Grenadianese.
Yeah.
And from time to time, I would use words wherever I go, in any international conference, anywhere, because you see, these things belongs to us. So when you speak about going and make a pankwai, school children don't know it's pankwai. School children don't know it's sugar cake and chip and fudge.
Right.
You know what I mean? But no, seriously. But these, once I observed, when you go to the hotels in Grenada and so on, and they speak of dessert, you get all kind of fancy European and American delicacies. And I've been to Brazil once, and I observed that they were using tamarind ball, chip and fudge and so on as desserts. And I'm like, wow, isn't that something? And that is something that is dying out here as well. The skill of making these little condiments and so on. We are losing that. The older people, the younger people not interested, maybe. It has not been passed on. I still look out for my fudge and sugar cake and our little sweet tooth. We don't have to import those things. But it means that at the same time, we need to be conscious of the fact that these things are priceless. These things are good. These things are part of us. But we would go to the restaurant and so on and look for the fancy American names and so on for desserts. All these mindset have to change.
Yeah. But even the way we think about our accents too, you hear somebody from who come from quote unquote, and I say quote unquote country, because Grenada is one place as far as I'm concerned. We are too small to be saying that person from St. David's or Grenville and that person from Tongue or whatever the case might be. Even the way that we think about our accents, that there is a tendency to debase the truly authentic Grenadian accent from different parts of the country.
I take great pride in speaking Grenadianese. Great pride.
Yeah.
I always, one of the interesting observations I continue to make is that when I hear Livingston speak, I know that Livingston is from the Riverside, Tivoli catchment area.
Yeah.
When you hear me speak, I am from the St. John's, Guelph area and so on. And similarly, somebody when they speak from the St. George's area and so on. Also a slight relax. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and it's something we have to embrace and celebrate.
It's something that we have to embrace.
Yes.
There's no need to speak like a Jamaican.
And that's part of the decolonization process as well.
Ali made a significant point when you, I don't know if he recognizes how significant. There is no development of a country you can undertake without embracing wholeheartedly the perpetuation or the consolidation of your national identity. It has to go hand in hand. The only how I can be creative, I can only be creative through my own self, meaning, so my language, I'm proud of who I am. So example for Carnival where I could develop something, my own fashion. I could use my food in order to use my food. If I have enough pride in my culture, I can tell my creative juices would flow. But when I lose my pride and I don't have myself, anybody else and everybody else thing is better than mine. And I think that is where the money and the economic chain go haywire, because now we are not consolidating and building on those things, and then we have that is truly ours. So our only economic or political theory is nationalism. That's the only how we can develop. There is no other way.
Yep, absolutely. And Brother Gill, any final comments, because I know we have to
I haven't seen that for a while now. You know that really is nationalism. You know, in some years ago, we coined the independence celebrations 34 years of Grenadianism, and we had a lot of criticism. People was like, "What is Grenadianism?" Not appreciating that, you know, Islam is really system. Grenada is about us and our culture and what we stand for and so on. Dr. Bob, I just want to encourage persons to join us in this year's Emancipation celebrations. Be part of the African dress. They be part of the libation, the libation during the day. Be part of the watch night. Be part of the Flambeau March put on by Seydou in Greenville on the 7th. And you know, be part of our emancipation celebrations. It's extremely important. You know, sometimes it's a little disheartening. When we had the George Floyd issue, you saw everyone. You couldn't squawk. Everybody think, you know, it was black conscience and black pride. But I always knew that as soon as that issue fades, so too would be the energies and the motivation of a lot of our people. You know, it's in peacetime. We have to know who the real soldiers are. You see, and now again, the UK government is imposing economic sanctions on Grenada and other Caribbean islands with the visa restriction. That's economic sanction, my brother. You know, and now people are saying, you know, why is it now? You know, people are a bit angered with it. And so that when we speak of republicanism and removing the king as the head of state, that's what we're talking about. So how is it that, and I don't want to digress, but, you know, I just threw in the analysis, you know, how is it that the king is head of state? And if we are his subjects, we have to get visas to enter his country. Yeah. The governor general, as representative of the king, does she has a number to ask him what is happening in the kingdom? You know, all these nuances, all these hypocrisy, all these, you know, why are we living the way we live in? You know, why are we living the way we are living? And only when we have a crisis, only when we are hurt, sometimes we speak to these issues. You know, but no, we have to every day be conscious of ourselves as a people, as a nation, where we are, what it is that we want for ourselves, what we think is best for us, and so on and so forth. And we can't just wait for when there's adverse conditions against us that we strike out and we clamor and so on. But as soon as those adversities, we ride these adversities, or the adversity is no longer new, then we move on to living just the way, just how we think. So emancipation celebration is extremely important. And, you know, I want to encourage everyone. And I see the Jambalasi man is here.
Yes, and speaking of Jambalasi, that's one of your former students as well. I know you have to go, but I needed to mention that.
All my students are leading the way in history and culture in this country. I'm the proudest teacher there ever is, and there ever will be.
We are both your former students. We are both your former students.
Yes,
I'm extremely grateful I had yourself and the current Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell as my history teachers. I think you guys really did justice in imparting that level of consciousness. It was not about names and dates only. It was about consciousness.
Exactly. You know,
yes. Of course, he sat at my feet for 3 years as well. You know, learning history and radicalism and emancipation and all these things. You know, sometimes we close the history books and we just reason.
That's right.
You know what I
I
mean? So
remember
that's,
those
Correct.
days.
we just chit chat and we just reason, man. So
Yeah,
it's really, really
yeah.
good to see you guys taking these critical roles in society. So thank you so much.
All
And
right.
happy emancipation to all.
Happy Emancipation, viewers and
Emancipation, sir.
listeners. Viewers and listeners, that's Mr. Ali Gill, who is the chair of Grenada's National Reparations Committee. What we will do now is to take a quick break. We are going to go down memory lane here with Ella Andel. We will go down with Ella Andel and her Shantwell song, which commemorates emancipation. And we'll be back to discuss emancipation in the context of music. And that's why we have brought Mr. Ian Charles here. Of course, Livingston would remain with us because music and drums is something that is so critical for him as well. So viewers and listeners, please stand by. We will be right back after these messages.
Bring down the power of love, I said. Bring down the power. The power of love, I said, is the greatest power. Stop hell and damnation. Bring down the power. Love to heal a nation is the greatest power. A wind of destruction is blowing over this land.
viewers and listeners, we welcome you back to this week's episode of the Bubb Report. Now, whenever we talk about emancipation, one of the elements of emancipation that we have to talk about is culture. But culture in the context of music, culture in the context of drums, culture in the context of jab jab, the conch shell, even how we think about jab jab and Juve music. And so I'm happy to be joined here by a former classmate of mine who is continuing to carry the flame forward with Jambalassi Grenada, Ian Charles of Jambalassi Grenada. He's here to talk about the role of music in emancipation and our Afro-Grenadian identity. And of course, we cannot have a conversation on music without talking about drums. And of course, that is where the Tivoli Drummers comes in. Of course, Livingston Nelson here, one of the great founders of that great Grenadian institution. Is more than just a drumming group. It is a great Grenadian cultural institution, and that must be stated. But Ian, I want to begin with you here, brother. Talk to us about this year's emancipation and how you see emancipation in the context of the music that Jambalassi does.
Okay, well, I want to say firstly, thank you again for having me on your program. It's always a pleasure. Now, for this year, I think for us in terms of Jambalassi, a lot is going to be done with the emphasis on the August 1st date. I know we celebrated in the Caribbean, well, in Grenada, the first Monday of August, but I always go back to the fact that, hey, when Christmas falls, it falls on the 25th of December. No matter when 25th falls, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the beat goes on, we have the holiday and we celebrate it. Emancipation, I think, that's my view, is on par with such holidays. So I think the August 1st holiday, should be highly, highly, highly recognized in the Caribbean community and throughout the Black world, because that was the day that officially, slavery was abolished and whatnot, 1834 or 1838, depending on which territory you were. So I think a lot has to be done. Us at Jambalassi, we started last year with the Jambalassi Festival, which was aimed at that, to really put some reverence and some national awareness on that particular date. This year, however, we're going to take a different trend. Earlier this year, we weren't able to get all the wheels in motion because of circumstances beyond our control. So what we've done for August 1st this year, we have a collaboration with WPG10 and GBN, in which we're going to be recapping the Jambalassi Festival of last year to keep the Jambalassi Festival going. Definitely next year, we're going to be back full stream in live and person, but we're going to make sure that the conch shell, the drum patterns, the chants, the elements of the jab, which came out of emancipation, is showcased, and the relevance to the culture and to the music is showcased on that particular day and not necessarily the first Monday of August. So I think that's something that we really, really want to push this year, the August 1st date and the importance of such date.
Mm-hmm. And Livingston, I want to bring you in here because I believe August 1st, Emancipation Day, is also synonymous with Tivoli Drummers in the context of what happens in Grenville. But I want you to really, especially for a newer generation of Grenadians who might not have heard of the significance of the drums and the significance of those rhythms in the context of emancipation, to underscore the importance of that for our cultural identity.
Well, I think the closest instrument or the closest symbol or tool you can think about that identify you as a Black man, as an African, is the drum. Yes, other cultures have drums. There are some cultures that have drums, but I believe that when the drum is played, it has a special effect on the minds of Black people. And I want to tell you something, the drum, because of our colonization and the psychological damage that it has done, the effect of colonization and slavery, when some people hear the drum, they hear evil. When some people hear the drum, they get scared. And when some other people hear the drum, it lifts them up. It brings them to a new place of reckoning. So the drum is not, it has not been a neutral like a guitar. It has never been like that. it always had an impact, positive or sometimes extremely positive and sometimes extremely negative, because that is the single most item, tool, implement, I don't know how you can think it, symbol that represent us as a Black people. But I want to just maybe divert. I know the question you asked, and I hope I answered it.
Yes.
But again, I think with the drum, not just the implement, not just the instrument, but the rhythm that comes to it carries the soul. It carries I can't say the DNA, but maybe the soul of the African people. When you can be a mile away and you hear that drum, and you know there is a call from to you as it hits you deep inside. And I mean, if your ear is really tuned, you could actually tell if it is from west or from east, or even within, whether it is from Nigeria, from Ghana, or from Sierra Leone, or from the Gambia. So I'm just saying that this has a major impact on all of us. But Kellen, there is something that we have in Grenada, and Ian is here representing that, but the jab. And I would link that with what we have done with the Cultural Foundation. Now, as I said earlier on, it is, I believe wholeheartedly, the only way we can actually take advantage of reparation, or even talk truthfully about reparation or restorative justice, is when we as a people, when we can lift the bar. And to lift the bar is to lift the level of consciousness and awareness of our people. And in doing so, in the Cultural Foundation, what I have conceptualized is to have what I call a cultural awareness program, where at least minimum 3 times a week, we send out information to radio, and we have this traditional group where we want the jab, the Apache, the Shatney, the Veko, to the Mokojombe, to understand the history of the art. So last week we did the Mokojombe, a whole write-up, and some people were blown. I mean, and Ian is here, he's part of that, and he can tell you the information that comes across and how some people embrace it, because now they have a greater appreciation of when you're doing Mokojombe, what that is all about. We're now completing this week with only the jab. So I just want to give you what we did for yesterday on the jab. Today we had a tidbit, and today was just recognizing the great jab players of the past. But I would want to just take a minute to read something, and you would see the closeness in terms of what we're talking about as it relates to emancipation. So it goes like that. Slavery and colonialism had taken its toll on the minds of the Black residents. Everything that came from the African continent was condemned by the status quo. So we were too Black. Our spirituality was devilish. Our hair were too woolly. Our nose were too flat. Our drums were not a civilized instrument. Our dances were vulgar. Our spoken words were not to be heard. While most Africans complied with those designations, a small group resisted. A small group of the rebels opposed the white man's interpretation of God, the Bible, and the racism. We were told that we were nothing as Africans. Black people resisted that designation all over. It was because of that resistance that one group displayed a total disgust against the teaching. And so on Carnival Day, that resistance led to the emergence of the jab. The jab, shunned and ridiculed, marched relentlessly across the streets of Grenada. The message of the jab was simple. You hate me because I am Black, then let me claim my Blackness. And so the tar was adopted. The shell was a call for all to assemble and protest. The shell is important in recognizing protest by a collective, not just the creation of chaos, but to protest as a group. The hated drum was played as a means to claim the Afrocentricity. In an attempt to show the double subconscious and show what was perpetuated in society, the symbol of evil was adopted, and so snakes, coffins, hands, and sodomy, meaning men in women's underwear, were used. To show the desire to fight against oppressions, the chain, the act of spelling using the Bible, the attack on symbols of authority, all show the desire to fight against the status quo. Now, that was part of it. So he had the preamble before, what show you that the original name was the Ye, and how it changed into the Jab Jab, because people of the church saw that Jab Jab was a blasphemous. They believe it was blasphemous. So
and some of them still do.
So the idea that we were called the Jab, we were devil worshippers, etc., was something. It's like, your parents might call you something because also your people in the neighborhood might label you, because of how they saw you, and that is how the label came with the Jab Jab. So I just wanted to raise that and to show how this whole idea of resisting the designation is what would have us liberated mentally and psychologically. So the drum is a central role, because the drum, as with the shell, is a call to action. The music of the Jambalasi is a call to action.
Ian, there is a lot of significance. I don't think people understand how deeply rooted the Jambalasi rhythm is, and the work that Moss International historically, has been able to do, and the work that you continue to do with Jambalasi, how significantly rooted it is in our Afrocentric culture.
Yeah, well, listen, Jab is drums. Jab is drums. The heartbeat of the rhythm is drums. You cannot have a Jab rhythm without drums. The shell is going to be an accompaniment, but the heartbeat of the Jab rhythm is drums. So people have to understand that the drums have a particular format. There's 3 drums, You have the bass, the coupe, the cutter, the mid-range, however you want to call it. And these elements have to come together. So once we need to understand that, one, as a nation, but two, as music producers, so we could really stamp some kind of authority on the rhythm. Because Grenada in itself, I mean, like Mr. Livingston said, he's not today, but he spoke about the cultural awareness letters that is sent out. One of the letters stated that there were jabs in other territories. Fair enough. But Grenada's jab, what makes us unique is the rhythm. So when Moss International went in the studio back in 1991 and recorded Jambalasi Rule, it was a conscious effort to take the sound off the streets and put it into a recording studio. So if you strip Jambalasi Rule 1991 down to the stems and you listen to the drum pattern, you're hearing Juve Morning. I mean, obviously it was implemented via a drum machine that would make it even so brilliant, but people need to understand the importance and the historical value of the rhythm and the historical relation to emancipation for Jab. Once we understand that and we get rid of the notion that Jab is a nuisance, Jab is just getting drunk and whining, and have to understand that culture is inherited. So it's critical that right now we really speak as one voice, speak with the same information, not you saying one thing, Mr. Livingston saying one thing, Ali Gill saying one thing. No, we have to come together, get it right. And I applaud the Grenada Cultural Foundation for the cultural awareness that they're doing. So it gets out more to everybody via WhatsApp, via the internet, via Facebook, via all the platforms. So we need to really, really understand it and tie it in to the music, so you keep something that you could be proud of, and future generations to come will understand it. Just today was kind of late coming into today's session. They were workshop in Grenville. It was a cultural workshop, and I must say kudos to them, the Labbe Theater. What they did now, they had a workshop with Jab, where they showed the different elements. They gave literature and they spoke. Skinny Banton was up there, Lafayette Jab. I represented Jambalasi and whatnot. So when I say culture is inherited, there are a group of people, at least 18 people between the ranges of 5 to about 15 years right now, who have a whole different concept of Jab. and hopefully that could go on and spread through the community, so people could say, hey, this is not a bad thing. This is not a devil thing. No, it's just European propaganda that was spread because of the power, because of anything African was wrong. Remember that slavery, I think, is the worst genocide ever in human history. So the whole fact that we're getting some sort of traction right now with reparations and whatnot is excellent. So it's something that I think needs to be continuously taught, and the facts have to be verified, so each one could teach one.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, but I'm not too sure if Livingston wants to add anything, but I have two final questions here. The first one is, of course, we are seeing the reintroduction of Grenadian history being taught in schools. I can't tell you how much that is music to my ears. When I saw that, I did a happy dance, and I almost poured libations in the honor of the ancestors. Right? There is that element to it. But there is another challenge to people like Livingston and Ali and others in respect of the transmission of culture and the teaching of history. I also firmly believe that there ought to be a cultural studies curriculum that's a part of the Grenadian history curriculum, where we are teaching all of the elements that you're talking about here should also be taught in schools. I fundamentally believe in that, and that is something I'm prepared to continue to campaign for.
But I believe
I've always campaigned for. Livingston, go ahead.
I also believe that, but I also believe we need, and I think what we are doing right now, we're on the road. We need to have more documentation, and as Ian said, more consistent documentation, and that, so we need the materials to do the teaching. So I just want to go back one thing and then come back to the question you asked Ian. When Ian, I was making the point that the root of jab actually came out from one country, but the branches. So we have branches like in Haiti, which you call Lauren Cobb, and then Lancet Cobb, and then you have French Guyana, which you call Neg Marron. All these are the same expressions, but Grenada jab is the only place you have Grenada jab, right? So I wanted to say that. Also, something, Ian, you must take into consideration, and you should be going around and proudly saying that. No, I'm talking about something else. There were two major incidents that helped spur the whole acceptance of jab. The first, there are four actually, but the first one was in '76 when jab was banned and people came out en masse to campaign. But
I heard about that. The Gary era, when Gary said no jab.
I heard about that.
Yeah, but lest we forget, as much as we are purists, I'm saying purists in the sense that we want the jab to remain authentically drum, because again, we don't finish and the chat didn't finish yet in terms of we have not reached it. But Moss International created the biggest boost after '76 in that era for the acceptance of drum and jab in the Grenadian psyche. When Moss came out with Jambalasi rule, that created a big boost and acceptance nationally, because for the first time, Shell was then, recorded in a studio. And the song of the jab, while it was not totally the drum pattern, totally there, but as we accustomed hearing it, but it was so close to the real thing that Grenadians embraced on that and were able to dance widely on the streets of Grenada, but in particular on the streets of Grenville when that came out. So I said Moss International had that boost to create that acceptance of jab nationally throughout that era, that very few people had that impact. I mean, when we come later, we would see other advent like the Tal Creed, and of course, and the Tivoli drummers, we played a major role.
Mix. You can't forget Rhythm Mix there. Rhythm Mix single-handedly happened after Moss International. They reigned supreme for like from mid-90s go right up. They were pushing jab hard.
Yeah. So we said so that the boldness to record that jab rhythm and again to link it, if we look at the sociological context, to link it, and I'm calling you by giving you a title now, Dr. Bubb, to link it with as a political commentary, because Jab
It
is a
is.
protest mass. So
Yes.
the fact is, it was a commentary on something that was happening. They saw it as a political commentary. So Jab did not divert with Mass International. It was not about wine and Jab. It was a political commentary. Yeah.
It was a political, and just to add to that, it was a political commentary which was brought across with all elements of job. Because
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Yes.
if you take the part, if the campaign didn't pass in my yard, no, if you go back to the original, old woman don't pass in my yard, and the rest goes on. I can't say it on your show.
Yeah, and also the spelling. So the
Yeah.
Mass International was able to capture a wide facet of what we may consider Jab itself. The whole intrigue, the magic, the theatrics. So you had the spelling, you had the political commentary, you had the shell. So that was a massive and a major.
Yeah, that's what I said. It was a deliberate attempt to bring the songs of the job. And again, you have to understand, they took the rhythm and they implemented via drum machine. So you have to understand the genius behind my uncles in terms of taking it off the street and being able to structure it musically to fit other instruments. So it's give them the kudos while they're alive. My uncle Don died, but still.
No, and that's important. That's really important that we contextualize the musical element in, because we cannot have a conversation about emancipation without talking about jab, without talking about drums, without talking about the shells, without talking about jambalasi, without talking about Master National Rhythm Mix Tivoli drummers. All of you have really continued that transmission of culture, Ian, that you expressed, right? Ensuring that culture transmits to the next generation, which is so critical. And so that work needs to continue. Yeah, yes, Ian, go ahead, brother.
You mentioned that Grenada's culture is being taught in school, which I am ecstatic.
I'm hoping that it should be. I said I'm hoping that it needs to be. That's my hope.
But I saw a press release. I hope I got it correct. I saw a press release
about history. Yes.
Yeah, history being implemented. This is great. This is long overdue, obviously. The only bit of concern I have is like from which viewpoint is it going to be taught? Because there are certain things in Grenada's culture that it's still sort of hazy. So that's my only concern. Which viewpoint? Whose viewpoint? What viewpoint?
And that is a conversation that needs to be had. I would love to see what the curriculum looks like. Are we going to be teaching? Are we only going to be teaching Grenadian history from Form 1 to Form 5? What about from the elementary level, from the preschool level all the way to T.A. Marisha Community College? When we think about history, are we also going to be incorporating Grenadian history, as you said, in the context of our indigenous spiritual practices? The spiritual Baptists, which we call Obia people. How are we going to contextualize and define Obia? Let's be real about this. How are we going to define Obia? Obia is still defined through the colonial lens.
Exactly.
It's still defined through the colonial lens as this evil African practice.
That's a next conversation.
It's all of these conversations that we need to have.
But we have started. We have started, Dr. Bob. We have started with the demystification by ensuring that they come and oversee our ceremony on Emancipation Day. So already we are demystifying that concept and challenging that concept. So we are starting, and I guess it will just grow.
And I'm really happy about that. I'm really, really kudos to the government of Grenada for making that decision. And Livingston, I hope that you had a role to play in this, and I hope that you will continue.
Not in the teaching of history. I have nothing to do with that. I welcome it as you do, but I'm taking full responsibility for the selection of our spiritual Baptists.
Yes, we need to do that. Even our IFA practitioners as well, because we do have IFA faith practitioners in Grenada as well.
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah.
I was at the ceremony not too long ago.
Yep. So we have to incorporate them as well. These are all part of our African faith traditions. There is no need to get scared. I mean, they used to call, there was this guy in Pomerose, they used to call him this Obia man, and and every time they said, "Oh, don't go close to this man," I was drawn to this man.
Right.
Yeah, European propaganda.
That's what it is.
Really messed
All
up.
right.
And I mean,
Livingston, any final
Yes.
comments from you as we close this segment, brother?
Well, I think I said everything that I basically wanted to say. It's a great program. I know it's a lot for people to seriously take in. You put me in a group of people that are totally competent and well versed in the area. Starting with Ali Gill, and then now Ian, Charles, and yourself, Kellen. So we hope that we have been able to clarify and as much the issues. But on Emancipation Day, on the first, we intend to have a major celebration of our Afrocentricity and to recognize the fact that people shed blood for us inheriting what we have now. And on the 7th, we're still going to continue that as it used to be until we can get it legally rectified and celebrate one day at Rainbow City, Grenville. So on the 7th, if you are in St. Andrew, come out in your numbers. Again, where you're African, where no harm in celebrating 2 days.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Ian, final comments from you, brother.
well, I just want to follow in the footsteps of Mr. Livingston and said, I mean, I'm honored to be on a panel like with this, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Ali Gill. Like Ali taught me in school. I mean, Ali, I must give Ali some kudos. Remember in Form 1, Ali came into class. He write JESUS on the board. Whenever I meet him, I always tell him that. He turned around, he's like, pronounce that. Remember, that was in PBC, Christian Catholic School. He said, pronounce this
The
word.
preeminent all-boys Catholic school in Grenada.
You know, so everybody says, we said, Jesus. Ali, watch us. He said, dress us, learn your history. And from that day, I was put on a path for straight Africanism. And through Rastafari, I'm not a Rastafari, but everything links together. The whole Black conscious movement links from the Black Panther to the African to everything to Rastafari. So I must big him up. But I'm happy that Mr. Livingston said that they're going to have a celebration on August 1st. I mean, August 1st is the date of emancipation, and I'm happy to see from a national entity, you know, that they're having works in to have that day as celebrations. And let's continue to promote Black Africanism and the truth and verified facts, so everybody going to be beaten to one accord. And the history of the jab and the drums and everything, everybody going to finally understand it in such a manner that they'll be able to pass it on in its truest form. So thanks for having me.
Ian Charles and Livingston Nelson, we thank you for joining us this week as we commemorate Emancipation Day in Grenada, encompassing aspects of our cultural identity, encompassing aspects of our Afrocentric identity into this year's Emancipation celebration. Viewers and listeners, we want to thank you for your participation on this week's episode of the Bubb Report, and we wish everyone in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique a happy emancipation. I say, from me and the producers of the Bubb Report, thank you, and we will see you next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.